The room was silent. 64 squares, 32 pieces. One Filipino boy sitting across from a man who had already decided the outcome before a single move was made. The Russian Grandmaster leaned back in his chair, lips curling into something that wasn't quite a smile. He glanced at his seconds, muttered something in Russian, and they laughed. Quietly, dismissively, the kind of laugh that says, "This won't take long." He had seen the Filipinos' opening, provincial, he called it, unsophisticated, a relic of island thinking. He had no idea he was staring at a trap 10 moves deep, built in a language he had never been taught to read. Welcome to Archipelago Archive. Subscribe now to join our mission of documenting the legends the world ignored. The year was 2022. The venue, a gleaming tournament hall in Reykjavik, Iceland. Marble floors, fluorescent lights, the hum of air conditioning cutting through the tension like a blade. Flags of 40 nations lined the walls, but only one flag seemed out of place to the commentators, the Philippine flag. Small, quiet, easy to overlook. The Filipino player, barely 23 years old, had arrived on a budget that wouldn't cover the Grandmaster's hotel breakfast. His name was not yet known beyond Manila's chess circles. He had trained not in elite academies, but in a cramped barangay hall in Cavite, plastic chairs, a single ceiling fan, and a retired schoolteacher who saw something in him that the rankings never would. That schoolteacher had given him a system, a way of thinking, not European, not Russian, something older, something rooted in the rhythms of Filipino life, patience, sacrifice, and the willingness to lose something now to win everything later. The Grandmaster, by contrast, had 17 international titles. He had been trained since age 6 in Moscow's most prestigious chess institution. He had beaten world champions. He had written books. He did not lose to unknowns. He certainly did not lose to Filipinos. That was the assumption, unspoken, institutional, and heavy as iron, hanging over the board before a single clock was pressed. When the pairings were announced and the Filipino's name appeared opposite his, the Grandmaster reportedly smiled and said to his trainer, "Good, I need the rest." Those words would find their way back to the Filipino camp within hours. They always do. And in that barangay hall in Cavite, the retired schoolteacher, upon hearing them, simply nodded and said, "Mabuti, let him rest." The opening rounds passed without drama. The Filipino moved through the bracket methodically, winning clean, quiet games. No theatrics, no celebrations, just the soft click of pieces and the reset of clocks. Analysts barely mentioned him. The algorithm didn't flag his games. He was background noise in a tournament built for louder names. To understand what happened next, you have to go back to Cavite, back to a man named Mang Ernesto, 67 years old, bad knees, sharp eyes, and a chessboard he had owned since 1979. Mang Ernesto never competed internationally. He never had the funding, the papers, the connections, but he had time, decades of it, spent studying not just the game, but the philosophy beneath it. He was obsessed with a concept he called tiyaga at pagbabago, patience and transformation. He believed that Filipino players were conditioned by their culture to endure, to absorb pressure the way a coconut tree absorbs a typhoon, bending wildly but never breaking. He taught his student that the goal was never to dominate the board early. The goal was to survive long enough for the opponent's arrogance to become their weakness. If you believe in the untapped power of the Philippines, hit that subscribe button. It helps us find more stories like this one. The system Mang Ernesto designed was unconventional by European standards. It invited pressure. It appeared passive. It looked, to the untrained eye, like a player who didn't know what he was doing. Pieces were placed in positions that seemed suboptimal. Defenses opened like invitations. To a Grandmaster trained in Moscow's aggressive, calculated tradition, it looked like prey. That was the point. The Filipino had rehearsed this opening thousands of times. Every response the Grandmaster might give had been mapped, countermapped, and refined over years of late nights under a ceiling fan in Cavite. When he sat across from the Russian in that Reykjavik hall, he wasn't nervous, he was ready. And the Grandmaster, comfortable in his contempt, began to play fast, too fast, the way predators do when they think the hunt is already over. Move 7. The Grandmaster advanced his queen aggressively, a signature power move, the kind that had broken lesser opponents in seconds. The hall murmured. A few analysts nodded. One commentator on the live stream said, "This could be over quickly." The Filipino looked at the board for 11 seconds. Then he moved a pawn. Just a pawn. Modest, unremarkable. The Grandmaster barely glanced at it. Move 12. The board had shifted, subtly, almost imperceptibly, but something was different. The Grandmaster's pieces, which had surged forward with such confidence, were now, somehow, less coordinated. His queen was powerful but isolated. His king side, which had seemed fortified, now had a hairline fracture running through it. He hadn't caused it. He hadn't even noticed it forming. Move 18. The Filipino's face was still. Not stone cold, still. The way a fisherman is still before casting. The way the ocean is still before a wave gathers force. He moved his bishop. The Grandmaster stared. For the first time, his hand hovered over a piece and pulled back. The commentators went quiet. Move 23. The trap closed, not with a dramatic slam, but with the slow, inevitable pressure of a tide coming in. The Grandmaster's position, which had looked dominant 12 moves ago, was now structurally collapsing. Every aggressive move he had made, celebrated, commentated on, applauded, had been absorbed and redirected. He had been building his own cage, one confident move at a time, and the Filipino had been holding the door open. The hall felt different now. The energy had shifted. People were leaning forward. The live stream chat was flooding. And the Russian Grandmaster, 17 titles, Moscow trained, world-renowned, was sitting very, very still.
Move 29. Resignation. Not a dramatic collapse. No pieces swept off the board. Just a quiet, deliberate tipping of the king. The universal signal that says, "I cannot win from here." The Grandmaster extended his hand across the board. The Filipino took it. No celebration, no raised fist, just a small nod, the kind that Mang Ernesto would have recognized immediately. The room erupted, not in cheering exactly, in disbelief. The sound of 60 people recalibrating everything they thought they knew about this tournament, this player, this country. Analysts scrambled. The algorithm suddenly had a lot to say. The Filipino's name was on every chess forum within the hour. But somewhere in Cavite, an old man with bad knees and a 1979 chessboard was probably asleep. He already knew. In the post-game interview, the Grandmaster was asked about the opening. He paused for a long moment. Then he said, and these words were translated, shared, and quoted across the chess world for weeks, "I thought I was hunting. I did not realize I was the one being led." He asked for the game notation. He studied it for 3 hours that night. He later wrote in his tournament journal that he had encountered something he had no category for. a style built not on aggression or defense, but on transformation, on turning the opponent's strength into the instrument of their own defeat. He had mocked it before the game. He requested a copy of Mang Ernesto's methodology after it. There is a word in Filipino, Diskarte. It doesn't translate cleanly into English. It means something like ingenuity under pressure, the ability to find a way when every conventional path is blocked. It is the spirit that builds homes after typhoons. It is the energy that fills barangay courts and hallways and cramped chess rooms with people who have everything to prove and no resources to prove it with. The Filipino player went on to win 3 more international tournaments that year. He dedicated each one to Mang Ernesto. The retired schoolteacher reportedly wept at the 3rd dedication, not from pride, but from recognition. He had always known the method was real. He had just been waiting for the world to see it. The Grandmaster flew to Manila 6 months later. He asked to meet Mang Ernesto. The old man served him coffee and set up the board. They played for 4 hours. The Russian won, barely. He left the barangay hall and told the driver, "Take me back tomorrow." Some legends are carved into mountains. Some are pressed into stone tablets or written in gilded books. Some are played out on 64 squares in a cramped hall in Cavite, under a ceiling fan, by a man with bad knees who knew something the world wasn't ready to learn. The Philippines was ready to teach it anyway. Every island holds a secret. Every barangay has a legend. Join the archive by subscribing and tell us in the comments, which legend should we unearth next?